Okay, let's actually pause the commentary for a second. Okay, Ian and Sarah Hokum were fine. I didn't mind Sarah Hokum in the booth.
No,
overall.
she was actually fine. Other than, like I said, she just kept saying,
Sure.
doing the Makey Gannon joke, and I was like, all right.
But MPO, I started having an epiphany that I think I give Ian Anderson too hard of a time
Because of Philo.
Because Ian and Big Jerm, like, yeah, there were still moments where Ian, like, threw it to Terry.
Yeah.
But I think him and Jerm flowed a lot better.
Let me give you an analogy.
To where, like, I really didn't. It wasn't like I really like Big Jerm on commentary.
Yeah.
The whole commentary team, it wasn't like I was like, this is the greatest commentary team of all time. Mm-hmm. But they did the job of, like, I could watch it without being distracted by commentary
they
team.
feed off each other, and I think that Philo brings the worst out of Ian. I'll give you an analogy. You know, I have a 3-year-old at home, and, you know, by himself, he's one thing, pretty reasonably behaved. He's a toddler. You bring my other 3-year-old niece into the picture quite often, and it becomes a circus, and because they feed off of that. And I think that's what we got here. You know, Ian's a 3-year-old, and then Philo's the other 3-year-old, and they're just feeding off each other.
But Jerm was like bringing in
well, right, because
what age
Philo
is Jerm in this scenario?
He's 7.
Okay.
Because here's the problem is Philo brings like the very laid back vibes, and I think that's where Ian defaults to. So if you combine that together, you just get an absolutely absurd commentary team at sometimes. Because like maybe, to your point, like maybe if we pair Philo with Charlie Eisenhood,
maybe
we've got a better team that way too. Maybe it's just the two of those. It's like when you and your buddy in class like have to keep getting separated. Like we got to put you in different groups because you guys together are a problem. Like the teacher would say, you guys together, you're a problem. That's them. They're
very
a problem.
much so.
We got to separate
because
them.
Jerm and Sarah Hokum did very good at this too, but Jerm especially, I noticed his course knowledge was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The level of like, you know, you'd have a player on the right side. At one point, the one that just came to my mind is you had Niklas Antila taking a little bit of a weird stance on a putt that on camera looked open. And Ian's like, I wonder why he's going to that stance. And Jerm's like, well, if you're on the right side of this green, the limbs actually come down and make it a very low ceiling putt to where like this is the putt he has right here is actually gonna be very difficult. He's got to get low and throw like a nose up, blah, blah, blah. And he goes into this whole like minute long explanation of why this putt's so difficult. And sure enough, like, I don't know if Niklas missed or made it, but like it made me respect it before because otherwise, if no one would have mentioned it, it just looked like Niklas was taking a weird stance in a wide open putt.
Yeah,
because you just couldn't. The camera angle didn't do it justice. But I think I haven't seen D-Glow in person, but from what I understand, the camera doesn't do this course justice at all.
Yeah,
when it comes to the hills and stuff.
Like it.
So having Jerm, who in my opinion was one of the most knowledgeable commentators we've had all year, probably just from the standpoint of like he was willing to talk about it a lot more, and it really explained, like, especially on the flyovers, Jerm was very good on being like, this is the gap they want to hit, you know, this is the gap that they could hit, blah, 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 this is where they're trying to go, where they don't want to go, and it gave you like a much better feeling of the course. Yeah. So props to the commentary team.
One thing, first of all, I just have to just real quick, scale 1 to 10, how do we feel about Niklas Antila's new haircut?
You know, I'm kind of at like an 8 or 9.
It's very European bad boy of him.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a meme of him being Ellen DeGeneres. I thought that was harsh.
That's too far. No.
I agree. I
didn't recognize him at first when I first turned on coverage and they threw up his name. I was like, that's not Niklas. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, it is.
He's got the
And then as I was
going.
watching, I was like, you know, I kind of can feel it.
Hey, it works.
I agree.
So the one thing I will say about Sarah Hokum's commentary that I noticed, because I feel like it, and I don't always listen to commentary, hand up. Like sometimes I got too many noises going on. I gotta have that on mute.
You gotta choose which 3-year-old you're muting.
Right, exactly. Great point. Wish I could choose the ones in the room sometimes. Can't. But in any case, I think this hasn't been a pattern. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But Sarah Hokum was calling out a lot of disc names.
It's on the commentary team. Ian's team will always.
Because I thought it was just it had become universally a no-no.
No, Ian's team always. And you know what? Ian might have the most ball knowledge in the world of what players throw.
He knows everybody's bags.
It's crazy.
Until he doesn't, though, because the problem with that is, like, wasn't it in the past he would mess up a few times?
He would mess up some.
And it was like, well, that was kind of a bummer.
But I mean, this weekend, and you never know if he messed up or not.
Yeah,
it's kind of like when you ask Google Gemini, if you're asking about a subject you don't know anything about, you think that it's perfect, and then you ask it a subject you do know something about, and you realize it is completely wrong.
Yeah,
similar thing to watching Ian, where like he could be completely off, but I don't know these players' bags.
Right.
So. Because
he
was pulling out
driver and you see it on the ground, it's a putter.
He would pull it out and be like, "Oh, it looks like Gannon Burr switching that Huck Lab mini stamp. That's a C-Line PD2. He must be going." And then Jerm would be like, "Interesting." So he's going, and then sure enough, it'd be like an overstate. I'm like, the dude just saw his stamp. Like I don't know if I know my bag that well.
I mean, in fairness, like if you know, I never had a problem with the disc calls other than I thought it was weird to do free advertising because I mean it legitimately is free advertising. And now once again. The manufacturers pour all the money into this tour, so maybe they just deserve it. But like obviously, Discraft was the only ones, you know, getting their discs called out. Like Owen Scoggins, they were calling out hers and whatnot. But I do think like yes, if you decided like, hey, I'm going to know everybody's bags really well. First of all, it's just kind of an impossible task. I mean, you can try to know the best players and try to do it that way, but it is a good skill because now. You know, okay, let's say Paul approaches a shot and there is a left gap and a right gap, or a forehand and a backhand. And the second he pulls a disc out, Ian Anderson, he knows what disc that is. He knows when Paul usually throws that disc. He can now clue us in on what's probably about to happen because, you know, we talked about this before, but with the commentary, as many clues as possible before the shot is thrown is very helpful because it builds a little bit of context. And that way we're not just like waiting for the way too early catch cam transition to try and figure out where the heck the disc is going. So like it is a useful skill. It's just kind of one of those things where if you get it wrong, it's tough, but also like there's a way to do it without naming the brands. But I guess they just don't care.
Yeah, I can.
It's on the network.
I was thinking about it. I didn't even plan to talk about this, but I was thinking about it this weekend because as I was watching, it was getting done a lot. Again, I think it's just Ian's team does it. And Jerm also, which this might have helped my logic, is Ian would say something about a disc, and Jerm would take it a step farther and explain how that's about to fly on several occasions.
We're doing disc reviews.
Well, but it was very helpful in certain ways.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know how those discs fly, being the industry I'm in for as long as I've been in it. But when I was like watching it, it flowed very naturally to where it was actually helpful information.
Yeah, before, I don't think it's not helpful.
Well, before at times what kind of frustrated me was yes, the free advertising, but every manufacturer spends money on the Pro Tour somehow. So like, is it really free advertising? Yes and no. I don't know. Anyways, that aside, it is helpful information if you know how the discs fly. The problem that we still don't know is like Gannon has an FD in his bag, right? Or let's say a PD might be a better example. If they tell us it's a PD, but then he throws it and it flies like a function because it's been in his bag for 7 years, and it's super flippy, that's not helpful to us at home. Mm-hmm. Now, if he says this is a really beat up PD, he uses this for hyzer flips a lot. Okay, now all of a sudden that's helpful.
Right,
again.
It's more about knowing what he might be about to do with the disc rather than knowing because
that's where Jerm was very helpful, especially on like Calvin's bag. Is Ian would say like, I think that's his Halo Destroyer, and then Jerm a lot of times was cluing us in like, that must mean he's going to be taking this line. So he's going to be looking for, like, he'd be like, oh, that's interesting. He must be going big off the tee here.
Right.
And, like, then that was super helpful.
No, that's valid.
Because, like, it is an interesting sport where, like, a 7-iron's not a 7-iron.
No.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you can't just say he's throwing a fairway driver. Because, like, a fairway driver, is it a 6-speed to 10-speed? Is it overstable? Is it understable? So the easiest way of saying it might just be the PD, and then we know overstable 10-speed, right? There's still a lot of wrong things that can happen with that, like if they're wrong, if the disc is way too beat up, whatever. But when done correctly and explained well, it can be tasteful and actually adds to it. So I might be swayed.
Yeah, it'd be funny. Like I feel like the best way to do it would be like if disc golfers all had full-time caddies, like on the PGA Tour, where like this could be their job, not the disc golfer's job, because you want the disc golfer to have to do this. Where like if you're on one of the leader chase card, you submit a list of all the discs in your player's bag for that day with a number reference so that they can like reference the camera operator and they can just pop the graphic up on the screen like this is what's being thrown at the time. That'd be like the extreme way to do it. But yeah, and like I said, I just kind of noticed it because I was like, oh, I don't feel like I've heard it as much. But it's
very team dependent. But
really
Ian's the forefront of naming the discs.
Yeah.
Because if you get Terry Miller in there, he'll do it some.
Well, if you
Eisenhood and Brian, they don't really do it much at all.
If you know them, like if you know them, know the discs, you kind of just want to say it, I feel like.
Yeah.